Okay, thank you guys so much for coming to Physics Friday today. Because it's our very first lesson, we're actually just going to talk about like a brief history of physics, different branches of physics like thermodynamics and E&M, but we're just going to like briefly cover them. We're not going to go into them today. We're also going to talk about like the definition of physics, and thanks so much for coming. I hope you enjoy. All right, so do any of you know what the definition of physics is? If you could define it. Anyone? All right, so the definition, at least what Google said, is it's the study of matter and energy. And matter and energy is like basically everything in the universe, right? And so physics covers a lot of ground, from like everything we see on Earth to space to tiny particles. It's a really wide field. So when we go to the history of physics, Rachel's going to be writing our different different time periods. So way back in 650 BC, we have Thales, and he was often called the father of science because he was the first person in records to claim that every event had a natural cause. He also said that water is like the basic element, and he used all these different experiments, which was brand new, to uncover secrets. So many of you might have used like the scientific method, so like hypothesis, conclusion, right? That comes all the way from 650 BC. All right, so then our next point we're going to talk about is all the way in the 5th century. So in the 5th century, have any of you heard of the atom from chemistry? Yeah, of course. Okay, so we have Democritus. And he discussed that matter could not be divided infinitely. There had to be like a fundamental block, right? And so he named it atomos, which we call the atom. And this is a big deal in the history of physics, but at the time, it was kind of disregarded, and it was left alone for 2 millennia, which is kind of sad because it's a big deal. Then the 4th century BCE, we have Aristotle. Thanks, Rachel. And so Aristotle actually claimed that there are only 4 elements that make up everything, right? So he claimed there's earth, there's fire, there's water, and there's air. So maybe like some of you have watched Avatar or whatever. I think those are the elements, but I don't watch it, so yeah. But he also said if these elements were to be combined, it was called aether, which was this weird substance that he made up. And most people actually accepted this theory at the time. It was very, very popular. And it continued to be popular all the way till Newton and Galileo. So then, after him, we have Aristarchus, who proposed the heliocentric model. Do you guys know what heliocentric means? It's kind of a big word. Yes?
It means the sun is in the middle.
The sun is in the middle, yeah. So, for so long we thought, Earth was it. Some people still believe it, but we won't talk about that. But at this time, finally, we started to see models of the sun in the center, but as you can imagine, it was not popular at all at the time. So then, this is my least favorite part of the story. In 48 BCE, the Library of Alexandria burned down. And when it burned down, we lost over 40,000 records of scientific facts, literature, philosophical thinking. It was kind of tragic because who knows what they discovered back then, right? Because we'll never know. It burned down. After this, there was a long period of time called the Dark Ages. And it was pretty dark, right? Because we didn't discover a lot. And it's actually pretty long because now we're going to fast forward all the way to the 15th century, like after the Common Era. And in the 15th century, there was what we call the scientific revolution. So we had Copernicus. Have you guys heard of Copernicus?
Yep.
He also helped bring back the heliocentric model. We have Kepler. So Kepler's laws you'll learn in physics class. He was a big deal. And he described that the Earth travels and planets travel around the sun in an ellipse. And he was able to make equations using like the speed and the period, the radius and the mass. In the 16th century, we learned of Galileo. Have you guys heard of Galileo? So Galileo was killed because he believed that, the sun was at the center, and he, defended it. The church would fight him on it at the time, and he defended it. So he was thrown in prison, and he died in prison, which is really sad. He wasn't the first person to invent the telescope, which some of you might have heard, but he was the first person to point the telescope at the sky. And he saw Jupiter, he saw Jupiter's moons, he saw Venus, he saw the sunspots on the sun, and he had to conclude, that we were moving around the sun and there were other planets. After this, we have famous Isaac Newton, which hopefully most of you have heard about. He's actually considered the father of physics because he discovered gravity. And even though you guys see memes that say that without Newton we wouldn't have gravity, that's false. But he discovered gravity, he described forces, he founded modern optics, so if you've ever seen the little pyramids that break rainbows, right? He discovered that. And he also invented calculus, which is a pretty big deal. So Newton is pretty critical to the story of physics. Many of you have learned about him, or you will learn about him in physics, and yeah, he's a key guy. So moving on, after Newton we come to thermodynamics. Do any of you know about thermodynamics from chemistry? Yes?
It's the study of heat and how it transfers between objects, or...
Perfect, yeah, the study of heat and energy. So we have famous scientists like Boyle or Joule, that use thermodynamics to describe heat and energy. And this is a branch of physics that's very important. At the same time, we have electromagnetism, which there's a class here you can take, E&M. So does anyone know about electromagnetism? Kyra again.
It's basically the relation between electricity and magnetism and how it connects to light.
Yeah, perfect. So electromagnetism is actually what holds all matter together. So it's pretty important. We had Maxwell, we had Faraday at this time, and they helped us understand electric forces, electric fields, which we can cover in later videos. So as we get closer to the modern age, we come across Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein actually completely changed physics. So up till now, many physicists claimed, oh, we know it all. You can stop discovering physics. We know it all. We can describe motion. We can describe heat, matter. But then Einstein completely changed the game because he actually said that we could take space and time and we could curve it. We could bend it. We could even rip it, which was mind-blowing at the time. Many people did not agree. They were like, that's crazy. But as we move on, we prove the theory of relativity more and more. Even the picture of the black hole you guys saw, all over Instagram or whatever, that actually helped prove, or further prove, Einstein's theory of relativity. And then even weirder than that, and this is the last part of history I'll cover, so don't worry, don't fall asleep, is quantum mechanics. So quantum mechanics actually disagreed with Einstein, disagreed with Newton. And I'm not going to go too much into it today, but it kind of brought out a fight between quantum mechanics and what we call classical mechanics, which is all they knew before then. And today there still isn't a theory that unifies the two, which is crazy. So because of this, we know that physics is not over. There is so much we don't know. We barely know enough about black holes, about time. Could we time travel? Is that real? Dark matter, we don't even know what that is. There's so many questions to be answered, and so that's why physics is very important. I hope that we get to see physics be pushed forward in our lifetimes, and I'm sure we will. And so thanks so much for coming.